What celebrity do you think is genuinely a good person and is not faking for press? One time Mr. Rogers had a meeting at the home of a PBS executive, and they sent the limo to pick him up. Upon learning the driver was expected to wait outside for the 2-hour meeting, Mr. Rogers insisted the driver come in with him. On the way back, he sat up front with the driver, and on learning they were passing his home, Mr. Rogers had the driver stop so he could meet his family. The driver called it one of the best nights of his life, as Mr. Rogers played his piano and talked with them for hours. He kept in touch with the driver for the rest of his life. He also was insistent on weighing exactly 143 pounds. Why? Those were the number of letters in I love you. Can confirm, very proactive in Parkinson's awareness, obviously gets in touch with people personally who have it, called a close family friend who suffers badly but also does some pretty amazing things, hike much of the app trail, deep woods fishing trips, he works out daily, etc. Michael J. Fox went out of his way to call our friend, talk to him, a few times just like normal folks. No agenda, just two people fighting a common enemy. He said Mike was pretty cool. I met him once years ago at Dragon Con. I was wearing a Goonies t-shirt and went through the line just to say hi. We spoke for a few minutes, and then he asked what he was autographing for me. I told him that was okay. I didn't have the money but just really wanted to thank him for so many good childhood memories. He picked up his Sharpie and looked over at his handler or whoever she was, and she shook her head number. Then he grinned and told me to lean over, and he wrote GNST on the sleeve of my shirt. Said it wasn't an autograph, so it didn't count. He's really excited and asks me if I know what it means. I'm stunned and can't say anything, so he bursts out with Goonies never say die. I stuttered and thanked him, then promptly walked to the bathroom and started crying at how nice he was and that I got to meet him. In addition to her charity work, her music has held up shockingly well. Jolene could have been a two girls fighting over one guy song, but instead the singer compliments Jolene, tells her she could have any man she wants, and asks her politely to respect the fact that her man is spoken for. 9 to 5 is a critique of capitalism and challenges faced by women in the workplace, long before that was a mainstream topic. Dolly rules. The special features of Lauter have clips of him talking about his injuries, but he quickly brushes it off and points out that the stunt team had way worse and more frequent injuries and they were the real hard workers of the cast. They also show how the stunt team did the hugger for him on his last day of shooting and he was fighting back tears. Can confirm. I used to meet a lot of celebrities years ago during one or another of my gigs at the time. He was the nicest one. No ego. Extremely polite, soft-spoken, and kind. I was really impressed. Not so impressed by Kevin Bacon. I was behind the bar, and he came in one night by himself. No one else. He must have wanted a lot of attention, but I was having some fun being a brat pretending not to know who he was. I always did this. Their jobs aren't who they really are, so I never get excited unless they're actually nice to me or we have something to talk about other than them. But anyway. He kept trying. Asked if I had seen Footloose, and I said the movie, that word religious one, number. Don't think I ever did, apostrophe. He sighed and ordered 3 drinks and looked like a bored and sad puppy. Eventually a group of women came in and squealed and his night was complete when they made a big fuss. I'm glad he got that at least. That's not my speed. And Kirstie Alley was hands down the absolute worst celebrity, and possibly person, I ever had to deal with. Just putrid. Not a shocker now, but this was years ago when she was more known. Edit. My estimations of their character mean nothing. They're just humans, who are maybe having a shitty day or the best day ever. Who knows? But those 3 in particular stick out. Can confirm Korn band members are pretty good people. Went to their Pop Sucks show in Little Rock 2002. I met Monkey backstage and he autographed my jacket after complimenting how cool he thought it looked. 10 years old me was absolutely starstruck. My brother and I were invited to ride on their tour bus with them to their Halloween Texas show, but my mom said no because we had school the next day. Paul F. Tompkins tells a story about recording an episode of Best Week Ever in a sound booth adjacent to Weird Al's, thinking he had met Weird Al before, and trying to do a bit where he went next door and dramatically yelled, "Hey Weird, can you keep it down?" Not only had he not actually met Weird Al before, but Al was way too nice and kept profusely apologizing over and over. 100% agree with this comment. When I was 10 years/old, I went to a vert skating competition hosted by Tony Hawk. My parents gifted me like backstage access, basically just a little meet and greet with the skaters. Well, my cousin got overheated and suffered a little heat stroke, exhaustion. Tony Hawk personally walked over to the medical tent we were at, ripped off his shoes, signed them and handed them to us, then invited us to basically relax and cool off in his tour bus. Such a fond memory of a super kind individual. Edit, spelling. One time in 3rd grade we all had to do a report on a historical figure or celebrity of our choosing. We wrote about how they inspired us as well. After we finished, our last task was to write the celebrity a letter as well to explain to them what we learned from their life. The second part was basically to teach us how to write letters. I chose to write about Steve Irwin, but a friend of mine did his all about Tony Hawk. This lucky son of a bitch comes in a week or so later with a handwritten letter about a page long thanking my buddy for thinking of him, Tony, when choosing his inspirational figure. He included multiple signed photographs of him skating. He even asked him to write back with his grade so he can see how good he did. I know he sent him a pair of wheels, and trucks too. There were a couple of other things, but I can't remember what all else it was. My buddy was literally overjoyed for a month after that. He was always the shy type before, but this broke him out of his shell. He literally changed his life with a letter. What a legend. Edit, I know Steve Irwin was Tear Falls just as much of a legend. He would have happily wrote me back, but we all know the animals needed him more. I had the chance to see him at the movie premiere of The Woman in Black in my city. He was supposed to go straight to the stage, but he stopped near the barriers for a long time to say hi to all the fans that were there to see him. He almost signed autographs and took pictures with people without a single complaint. The guy was all smiles, and he seemed genuinely surprised to see so many people who were there for him. He seems truly down to earth. Plus he said recently that he would work in something Harry Potter related if Rowling has no involvement with it. And that's definitely a good sign about him. He's a huge supporter of the LGBT community. He does totally look like a chode, but I think at this point it's his brand. I feel like he sat down and tried to figure out the most obnoxious but also inoffensive and memorable persona he could and stick to it. Frosted tips. Yep. Flame shirt. Of course. All yellow cars. Indeed. Love or hate the guy. You will remember him. So I guess it worked. He seems pretty nice. No idea, have never met him. But his talk, the wife and I met him a couple of years ago at a convention. Was surprised I was taller than him, but man was he jacked. He put his arms around our shoulders for the picture and I noticed that he smelled amazing. Because I have the tendency to say stupid things while nervous, I said, "Wow, you smell amazing," and without hesitation he replied, "Thank you, that means a lot," shook our hands and gave us a wink. Very brief interaction, but he came across as very genuine. And no, I don't know how big his dick is before anyone asks. Once got talking to a manager at a GameStop who apparently prior to that, had a short stint in the local professional wrestling scene in the late 90s. One of the people with who he trained with, wrestled was Batista. He had nothing but great things to say about him. How he was a super nice guy off the mat, very friendly. Great guy ... but also one of the hardest working dudes he had ever met in his years in the profession. I recall him saying he always wished him well and was super stoked that he was doing so well in the WWF at the time. I have a fun story about Danny DeVito. When I was a toddler, my mom had me playing in a park with my cousin where a movie was being filmed. My cousin fell and scraped her knee pretty bad at one point and my mom was trying to take care of the both of us. Anyway, A short fellow came up to help her out, and soon enough Danny DeVito was playing with me in the park. Needless to say, anyone who stops to help a mom who is clearly having trouble with her kids is A+ in my book. He is a down-to-earth person. I met him in London and my husband sat behind him and his wife at a show. During the intermission they had a quick drink with the bartender and chatted with fans. The show we saw had a scene meant to shock the audience. I didn't see it coming due to jet lag, and I screamed loudly and startled him. I apologized profusely, whispered, and had to deal with embarrassingly apologizing again when the play was over. He was really nice about it, luckily. Jason Momoa, guy I used to work with, K, was a carpenter in the film industry. One day as they're building sets, and in walks Jason Momoa. He's all like, "Hey guys, what's going on in here?" and takes a legitimate interest in what K and his crew are doing and how they're doing it. M hangs out and chats like one of the guys for an hour, asks if he can try out some of their tools. K says they were like, "Ugh, no. You're super important and cannot get injured." Then a frantic PA tracks M down to bring him back to the set so filming can start. Jason thanks the guys for letting him be there. Day or two later, JM shows up to hang out again, and brought a stack of pizzas in case they hadn't had dinner yet. Kay could not say enough good things about the guy. Hayden Bennett here. I've met the woman twice and she is a gem. At my city's comic expo she wiggled around the rules so some people could see her for free. Technically she wasn't supposed to be at her booth until 2 o'clock, so she'd show up early and I guess she'd justify people seeing her for free with, "Well, I don't start until 2 o'clock. So yeah, she wouldn't start charging people for autographs and photos until it was actually time to. Misha Collins is a peach. I had a friend who couldn't afford an autograph, so when she went through the line she asked if he'd be her voicemail. Since it wasn't an autograph he didn't charge her for it. I met Amanda taping at the comic expo and she did a similar thing, but with photos. There was a no photos at the autograph table rule in place because the con was charging for them separately, but she was just like, I see your friends standing off to the side while we chat. I sign your stuff. It would be such a shame if they happened to accidentally take a picture of us while totally looking at something else." This was post-Target but Sanctuary was still airing. This one I can confirm. She and Captain Lou, former pro wrestler, became close after they filmed a video together. Captain Lou had retired to the town I grew up in to be close to his family and I was tight with his granddaughter in high school. Whenever Cindy was passing through NY she always stopped by for dinner and many of those times I was there and able to hang out. She is an absolutely delightful human being. To that point, so is Captain Lou. It would be a hardcore NY winter and he'd be walking around with an open Hawaiian shirt and shorts just happy as hell. Always did local TV commercials, stopped to sign autographs, just a super good dude. Guy Fieri, dude gets so much unnecessary hate for the quirky things he says in his appearance, but he has done more for mom and pop restaurants than almost anyone ever. He gives them promotion on a global scale for free, and he raised almost $80 million for struggling restaurants during the pandemic. He even continued DDD from his ranch home with his sons during the pandemic. Each episode he would select 4 spots he loved and would have them send him the ingredients to make a certain dish of theirs. Over a Zoom call he would ask them to guide him through making the dish and give a prize to who he and his sons thought was the best dish. I assume he gave a lesser prize to the other restaurants too. There was a bar movie theater in Utah called Broovies that got slapped with heavy fines and a suspension of their liquor license due to a weird law that more or less prohibits serving alcohol in an establishment that shows lewdness and obscenity. The movie they showed that got them the heavy fines, Deadpool 2, because of the rough penis outline. Well, a huge lawsuit commenced between Broovies and the state of Utah and a GoFundMe was started for Broovies. Ryan Reynolds himself donated several thousand to the cause and uses social media to help the cause. Edit: Broovies won the lawsuit. I met him backstage at the Broadway show my dad produced. First date, he was the lead and he just bounded up to me in my GF and was like, "Hi, I'm Zach. I haven't seen you around before, are you new? It's so nice to meet you." Throughout the whole conversation he was so genuinely nice and engaging. My dad said he was great to work with. The same could not be said for his co-star Chris Rodriguez. Met him a couple times when I was working at Bass Pro in Orlando. Dude loves fishing. Also, he was a great source of financial advice. He explained the difference between earning money and making money to me and some other guys. The difference between working for your money and making your money work for you. 20 years later, I still think about what he said more than anything I learned in high school or college. The guy who plays the fat nice gangster in The Sopranos, I keep forgetting his name, but he used to be a regular at a bar that I would frequent. Everyone loved him, and despite being always surrounded by people, he always remembered everyone and stuff about them, asking me about my work and stuff and remembering details about what I told him in a one-time conversation that, I myself don't remember much, always made me feel good. My friend used to be a bouncer at one of the big bars in Nashville, TN, and he said that most of the celebrities who came in would sequester themselves off in a corner with their entourage and not interact with anyone. He said Dwayne Johnson came in the one time and he was inviting everyone over to his table and talking with them and taking photos with them and buying everyone drinks. He said he was just the most genuinely friendly, personable, generous person he encountered. Everything I have heard about Brie Larson from people that have met her and not analyzed YouTube videos has been good. She also had a great reputation from pre-MCU fame from a ton of people including Chris Evans and Dan Harmon, so I'm left to assume she's likely quite good and the YouTube ranting community might not know what the fuck they're talking about. Devin Townsend. I know I told this story on Reddit before, but I was at his concert with a friend who was in a wheelchair. There was a separate handicapped section that was raised slightly above the ground level so people in wheelchairs could see and be outside the mosh pit. My friend and I were the only two people in that section. After the show, Devin climbed down from the stage to come introduce himself to me and my friend. He put his hand out to shake hands with my friend who had muscular dystrophy, so it took a few moments before my friend could reach his hand, but he was patient and gave my friend that time. My friend was absolutely starstruck and could barely mutter a word to Devin, so Devin asked me if he was nonverbal. I said he wasn't. He's just starstruck. Devin stuck around and talked for a while and then took pictures with us. And during 2020, he streamed concerts on Twitch and then uploaded them to YouTube so anyone could watch for free. Just really awesome guy. A journalist had a nice story about him. The journalist did an interview with him and mentioned that his son was a big fan and RDJ said, "I would like to meet him. We can hang out." RDJ subsequently sent 2 tickets to the journalist for the premiere of his next film and was really super nice to both of them, paying genuine attention to the kid. Michael Stipe of Rem was there and tried to butt in and monopolize RDJ, and he said, "I would love to catch up, Michael, but I am with some friends at the moment. Can we do it another time?" Which was a really classy and humane way of dealing with that situation. I think he is a guy who understands the meaning of the phrase "be really nice to them on the way up, because you will meet them all again on the way down." I read an interview once where he was talking about being in prison and the other cons were really telling him off. "You had it made, Downey. You're fucking models. How could you screw it up that bad?" He was funny about it, but also serious. Weird Al is a really nice and genuine guy that always takes time to talk with fans or take pictures. I've also heard stories that The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, is just as genuine. If he's driving around and notices that people recognize him in the car, he'll turn around and stop to chat. Also, Fatman Scoop and Missy Elliott are truly nice people. They used to shop at the Target I worked at. I'd get a fist bump from Fatman when he walked in and I'd get a very enthusiastic hello from Missy, even remembering my name. I know he's dead, but Steve Irwin, that guy was my inspiration as a child. That guy was the human symbol for love. He's been gone for a while now, and his fans still talk about him every single day. I love that guy.